And it's the main thing that's caught everyone's attention that it seems that everyone's talking about the most. You mentioned this earlier. It's a first-person perspective.
Yeah.
Initial thoughts?
You know, you don't see me. It's kind of like if combat is going to be a big deal, then, you know, like I'm going to be using a lot of guns and the whip and a lot of things. Like I would rather be in first person, like I'm playing Call of Duty. But if you're going to make me, you know, go inside a volcano and hop from rock to keep from falling in the lava, like that kind of platforming or whatever, I'd kind of rather be able to see my feet. Like, you know?
Welcome gamers, non-gamers, PvEers, PvPers, and even NPCs. We do not discriminate. This is the New Wave Gaming Podcast. I think this is episode 41. I'm Ovox.
And I'm ChukTomahawk.
We're excited to talk about a new video game that was announced last Thursday on the Xbox Developer Direct stream. I think that's the name of the streaming event. And I think they announced a bunch of things, but really what caught our attention is Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. How about that name, ChukTomahawk?
you know where my mind went, right?
Don't worry. There's going to be a little E on the episode description here, so feel free to speak your mind.
I was going to try and refrain, but since you prompted me, I'm going to say the Great Mud Circle is the first thing I thought when I saw it.
Dude, that's so fucking insane. You went that way. I was equally thinking something, but I was thinking about the other circle. You know what I'm saying? The mud circle. When I first name it might as well the Great Starfish or something. The Great Balloon Knot. Jesus age.
Well, we know.
Oh, fuck, man.
Because America's right there in the taint somewhere, as far as I can tell.
The Great Circle. Yeah, I don't know. I think the name they may have been able to have a better name, but it's not a bad name. What? And I guess it, and we'll unpack this, but it relates to the plot.
Yeah, once you tie it to the plot, it's a solid.
You got to tie it to the plot, otherwise it's just like if there's no plot tie, mud circles, starfishes, or is that just us? Maybe we're just fucking up, man. I mean, all the listeners probably I don't know. That's probably just you guys. Or maybe it's just because it's crack of dawn in the morning.
It's like circle.
Yeah. Anyways, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Super excited about that game. I guess I'm really excited for folks with the Windows and the Xbox Series X and S because that's what it's going to be exclusive to.
For good? So, like never ported to the...
Well, anything can happen. Pepe Tortilla mentioned that yesterday. He's like, hey, they'll probably just port that over at some point, especially if it's successful. And
you would think.
I read there on online that before the whole Disney acquisition, was it Disney? Somebody acquired Bethesda. Who was that? Let me pull that up real quick.
Yeah, because they've been a little liberal with this license over the years when you think of the 200 and some indie games we've had.
So I'm having a total. Do you remember who acquired? What was it? Gosh darn it! I'm already ruining this podcast by forgetting the most important information. Well, let me get back to the point. There was a larger point that I was going to get to, but and I'll look for that just to confirm my hypothesis here. It was going to be on all consoles. I think Todd Howard from Bethesda was negotiating that with George Lucas way back. I think they were negotiating this game and talking about it way back in
or something, right?
Yeah, 2009. So, but Oh yeah, it was Disney. That's right. I'm sorry. Okay, I feel a little better now. I wasn't just like making that up. Disney acquired Bethesda in some way, shape, or form. I think we all remember this. So they renegotiated it and justified it by saying, like Disney was saying this, hey, your Xbox and PC community is large enough of a marketplace, so let's make this an exclusive. So it's an exclusive. That's one of the. So yeah, I'm real excited for everyone that's going to get to play this thing. I don't have an Xbox personally, but we're still super excited, or at least I am, because I'm a big Indiana Jones fan, man. That's like that franchise, Indy, Harrison Ford, that whole ethos there is part of my childhood.
Yeah.
You know, and I was born in '87, so those movies were already out and had some years behind them. At least the first one and the second, I think, or was it? Anyways, yeah, because there were how many? The original 3, right?
I think you got
out of the movies. I think the first one came out in like '83.
Yeah, what is it? Indiana Jones, Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade, and then you get the Crystal Skulls. Maybe after that, and then the most recent is kind of the way I remember it. But it gets cloudy after the first 3. The first 3 are what I kind of consider the canon.
Oh yeah, dude, those are the yeah. I mean that's the bread and butter right there. Yeah. Oh damn. So the first movie came out in 1981, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Temple of Doom came out in 1984. I was born in '87, and then 2 years later came The Last Crusade, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade in 1989.
Okay, so I got the first 2.
Those first 2,
kind of backwards there, yeah.
And then 2008 we saw, what is this one? Indiana Jones. Oh, and I think this is the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I remember that movie. I did see that one. I haven't seen this last one, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Came out last year,
yeah, 2023. I haven't either. I kind of
Have you heard good things or negative things? It looks like it doesn't have a very good rating. Oh, must have not that. No muy bueno.
I guess it almost felt like they kind of went woke to some degree with it, you know. And I heard that. I can't say that for sure, but yeah, that was some of the reports. And yeah, that maybe scared me away a little bit. And then, but Harrison Ford was in it though, right? Like he was.
I mean, Harrison Ford himself in an interview said, "No one else can be Indy." He literally said that, and he said, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, that when he dies, Indiana Jones dies.
He's like on like it looks like Good Morning America or something with a news reporter, and I love how he reaches out and puts his hand on his shoulder when he tells him that.
Yeah,
you know,
hey brother.
I'm here.
Yeah, just with a very slight nod.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Kind of like, I am Indiana Jones.
Yeah. Yo soy. Or no, how do you say it? Yo estoy Indiana Jones.
Temporarily, apparently.
Por el momento. Soy Indiana Jones.
Tiempo mi. Yo estoy.
Yeah. Someone, yeah, you get interviewed when you're playing the game, está disfrutando el nuevo videojuego de Indiana Jones, and then you come in.
Yo estoy ChukTomahawk.
Yo estoy disfrutando. Anyways, all right.
I got all excited once in this gym class I had. There was some folks in there from different countries that spoke Spanish, and I whipped that out. And the guy, he'd already explained that to me. Soy is like a permanent thing, and a stoy and I still mess it up, under pressure. But
no, it's okay. There are occasions where I'll still, mix up estoy and soy. I mean, it's rare, but there are occasions where I'll still wait a minute. That's right. And it'll kind of,
yeah.
It just, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Damn, Chuck, are you laughing so hard over there? You're tearing up already?
Yeah,
damn,
bit.
Man.
Yeah, I got to quit.
I love it when you tear up from a good laugh.
I got to quit wearing eye makeup. It's killing me.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. What do we have here? Just a quick little, we'll get into the specifics here, a little breakdown, bullet points. We've got Machine Games as the developer, which is they're really known for, they're very successful with first-person games, and they did the Wolfenstein Young Blood, I think it's called, and they've done they've worked on the Wolfenstein series, and
Dude,
go ahead.
It does strike me like one interesting thought I had when I saw kind of their promo video where they talked about it, and you start to realize like these people ain't from around here. Like you're like looking at them and then you kind of find out they're from Sweden, and I really, as I'm sitting there thinking like I don't think I've met a lot of people from Sweden, and I just wondered if you had like I know a lot of folks come through tourist wise and stuff down your way, and
yeah, there's definitely been a handful.
Yeah.
Like I think out of all the European countries, they're up there. I mean, not too many. At least that I've interacted with and met.
The vibe feels a little like
mostly German, French, Spanish, English. Lots of Australians. They're not. I mean, that's not Europe, but hey mate, let's go grab some beers. I love that. I always love that.
It's like one of my absolute favorite parts of visiting down there. Like it literally changes your life, and it kind of surprises me. I don't have like at least one incidence of meeting someone from there, but the vibe kind of seemed more like Germans a little bit to me, and that made me think about like, how was this movie presented to them as kids? I mean, there's got to be a thing, like if I'm watching a Swedish film, I think about that, like, like I kind of notice cultural differences and things, and I just, there's a tiny part of me is like, can these people can they be trusted with my beloved, American movie franchise? But obviously they've done a great job.
They had
with
Todd. Yeah, they have Todd Howard, as the executive producer, and I think, gosh, dude, the Indiana Jones dude. I think a whole generation of the world grew up with him. You're right. It is like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas and everything, and I mean, yeah, those movies those were directed by Steven Spielberg, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, it's machine games, man. They can do it, or at least that's the feeling. But there's more to that. There's more to that they can do it thing that we got to unpack, because it's kind of like the main topic of controversy right now. But this is a professional podcast here, and we're going in steps, Chuck. All right?
Roger that.
Yeah. All right. Very professional podcast here. Machine games, as you mentioned there, we watched that video where they did a full presentation and like discussed how they approached the development of the game, and they really did show a lot of passion, and they just described a lot how they wanted to keep the essence of the Indiana Jones that we all grew up with, that dashing, confident, enthusiastic archaeologist, professor that's gets thrown into these adventures where there's like puzzle solving and brief gun battles and just adventuring and the whole kit, right? There's even like, of course the villains are always present, which in this case usually is, the Nazis, because it's based right around that just before World War II phase, at least the main movies were. So yeah, they talk about it. It's a great interview. They're great interviews, but that's always like they're really hyping it up too.
Yeah, you can sense the passion. Like they certainly care about it, and yeah, they have that. When you look at their past games, it's almost like you can kind of sense it's one of their games. Like there's kind of a vibe, to them, and you can kind of pick that up in the trailer, and especially as they're talking about it, kind of pointing out what they had thought about, and whether they were going to do first person or third person, kind of some of the decisions they had to make. And yeah.
We're going to get into that. They've been working on it for like 3 years, I think. I think they started in 2021 development, I think is what I read somewhere around there. I might be wrong, but so they've got some time into this. I'm sure they're feeling passionate about it. It's it's a huge bar to reach, having that IP, Indiana Jones. So yeah, it's being published by Bethesda Softworks. So, that's a powerhouse name in the industry, Bethesda right there. The director is, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but I think it's Jörg Gustafsson. And he was a part of that interview video, the presentation video. The composer is Gordy Hobb, and he's trying to like really interpret and like recreate that incredible sound and music performance from the movies in the game. Like he's drawing from the original composer of the movies. I don't remember his name off the top of my head. But Gordy Hobb is really like remember in that interview video where they talk about how they really want to bring to life the Indiana Jones adventure for the player. Part of that is with the sound and the music.
Dude, the size of that freaking orchestra, like it's
yeah.
I mean, it covers a whole room, like and I mean a big
think
old
there's anyone
room,
in there
like
with a
an
little
auditorium.
ukulele just in case.
Yeah.
Just sitting over in the back corner.
Got a hillbilly with
ready.
a washboard and some spoons and shit.
You never know, dude. You never know. And he might get into something where they need that guy on the ukulele to start like, You never know. Anyways.
Composers
All right.
always blow my mind too. Like what are they doing up there? Like I think most of my like the Bugs Bunny cartoons, like when he's like, and then there's
when you look at it, it seems like, it's hard not to think that, like, what are they doing up there? Like, really? But I actually think there's like, that's actually like probably the most important and most complicated job up there.
Yeah.
Keep that whole orchestra going on track. Anyway, so Gordy Hobb looks like he's killing it with the sound and music. ID Tech Engine, that's what they're using. Platforms to be released on: Windows, Xbox Series X and S. Release year, this year, 2024. That's all they've said. So I'm thinking probably like around November, man.
December 31st as well, if we're lucky.
Hey, I'd count. Yeah, I wouldn't expect this game to release until the end of the year. It's an action-adventure game, single player. And the voice of Indiana Jones is the well-known Troy Baker. Troy Baker is an American voice actor and musician. I'm reading from the Wikipedia page here, my little cheat sheet. He's been in a ton of video games, man. He's been in a ton of media and content, and just, he's got a filmography background, an animation background, and these lists are long. He's got a film background. And then his video game background is huge, man. It's a huge list. Holy crap. He's got other stuff, live action, studio albums, singles. This guy's like,
he's probably
super involved and well known. But
residual checks, boy.
Dude, the lists are huge. And I'm not gonna lie, I've only like become familiar with him now and doing a little research on this episode. He's from Dallas, Texas. He's 47. But let me just read this real quick. It says Baker is known for his video game roles, including Joel Miller in The Last of Us franchise, Booker DeWitt in the BioShock Infinity 2013. He played Sam Drake in Uncharted 4, A Thief's End 2016, and Uncharted: The Lost Legacy 2017. He played Reese Strongfork in Tales from the Borderlands 2014, Snow Viers in Final Fantasy VIII 2010, Kanji Tatsumi in Persona 4 2008, Talon in Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor 2014, and Middle-earth Shadow of War 2017, Pagan Min in Far Cry 4. No way!
Huh.
No way! That's crazy. I beat that game, man. That was a great one. And this is my favorite one because, Chuck, I'm an addict and huge fan of the Metal Gear Solid franchise. He played Ocelot in Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain in 2015, which is crazy. And he also played Higgs Monaghan in Death Stranding from 2019. Anyways, Troy Baker is playing is the voice actor for Indiana Jones in this upcoming game. What were your thoughts on? No, let's save that. Let's save that because we're coming up on that. Let me just make sure we covered our basics here. That's actually it. And there are other protagonists in the game. There's a lady. Her name is Alessandra Mastronardi, and she's acting or voice acting as Gina Lombardi, which is, I think, accompanying Indiana Jones in this game as kind of like an investigative reporter.
Yeah, they kind of.
I think that's her.
Team up.
Yeah, they team up and create a bond in the game, I'm suspecting. And then our antagonist, the bad guy, is in the game. His name is Emmerich Voss. And when you see the reveal trailer, dude, and you see him in the beginning opening scene, he looks like that's like the perfect name. You know, Emmerich Voss. And Emmerich Voss is being played by voice actor Marios Gavrilis. And this is Tony Todd as Locus. I'm not sure who Locus is, though.
It's a cool name.
Okay. So, the reveal trailer. We watched it many of times. We just watched it again before beginning the episode, and I just want to play this one part real quick because I think it's hilarious, and it makes Indiana Jones kind of sound like, I don't know, lame.
You can't just run away from your problems, Indiana. Watch me.
It's like, wait a minute, Indiana Jones running away from his problems?
Mm-hmm. Let me show you how.
You can't just run away from your problems, Indiana. Watch me. and then like the next scenes are him just like, you know, fist punching a guy in the face, you know, like
hitting
totally taking his problems on head first. I just thought that was kind of like funny, like it just got my attention, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of not like not something you would aspire to.
And he just like looks back at the doctor, just all like, you know, badass, like super confident, and you know, watch me. My problems are over there. I'm gonna go that way.
Yeah,
you know? And then whips
just picture a guy like
tree and flies off,
hammering a bottle of liquor, walking into a strip club or something.
Great circle, what?
It's like
I'm about to find me a great circle. I'll be all right.
For my problems.
Oh man.
But
so the opening scene is kind of like well, no, it's not a pan. It's a I forgot the technical terms here, but they kind of like the camera comes down and we see kind of just like a group of Nazi soldiers, and then there's like a captain or a main leading them, the gentleman leading them that's talking to someone, and the camera comes down and we see the back of his head, and it's this guy. Does he have the fedora on the beginning of the video?
Dude,
no, he doesn't.
Whole
he doesn't.
Scene, like I'm assuming that's Emmerich right there, Voss, like the main guy you're talking about. What
Emmerich
is going?
Voss.
Like the whole time I'm thinking, what is on his nose? Like that.
We must have missed something. There must be like, you know, this must be like a mid-game or end-game like cutscene, and we must have like missed where something happened where he broke his nose, or maybe he got like a pre-World War II nose job, man. Maybe
frostbite's
they were
what I'm thinking, like, or something. Like it looks bad. Like, yeah, like the entire time, like I'm like, we're gonna show this and we're not gonna mention like what's going on with this guy's nose, and then like you say, it slowly goes down, and then your attention goes like, shit, that's Indiana. And
it's our boy. It's our boy, man. We grew up with him, dude.
They got him hemmed up again in the desert.
I don't think I can emphasize enough like how what's the right word here? How like how monumental, how important, how like how dearly we hold like this character Indiana Jones like to our hearts, like a certain generation at least. Like forms part of like the childhood, you know, like this is a character that a lot of kids wanted to be. You know, this is right there on the shelves with you know, Star Wars, with help me out, Chuck, with Back to the Future. Like these are like movie trilogies and like or franchises, I guess is the, you know, the word, I guess. But there's like sets of movies and like these characters that during that those 80s 90s years were just like so huge for so many kids. You know,
yeah, there's
Indiana
kind of
Jones,
a penetration of just, you know, everyone knows it. Like even if you're not into adventure movies or whatever, if somebody says, you know, who's Indiana Jones, like you know, you could answer it on Jeopardy or something. Like
he's
you know, what
he
was his job?
like
he's an archaeologist. Like, you know, it's like
name
an archaeologist. Like, you know,
he was like at least like the Halloween costume of so many kids back in the day.
And one of the things I think that is important about these movies is that he kind of is like just your everyday guy. Like he's working at a university, you know, archaeologist. Like he's not like some superhuman athlete or some, you know, trained soldier that's like, you know, trained to fight and do all these things that he ends up doing. Like he has to use his wits to solve these mysteries and you know, stay one step ahead of the bad guys and you know, so we can all identify with that.
Well, and his knowledge too as a archaeologist, like he knows so much about these puzzles where he employs his wits and his knowledge of like archaeology and history and communities and like, you know, like it's just so cool. Yeah,
well, and they always add some supernatural into it, but it's like plausible supernatural. Like you know, it's kind of like throughout the main movie, it's kind of the backdrop is our normal world, but you know, all of a sudden, like, you know, we open this ark and it fries about 50 German dudes, like, you know.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Like, that's so funny.
You know, and it gets crazier as time goes on. Like the thing, like the skull, the crystal skulls and things. But in the first movies, it's supernatural, but it's plausible. Like you know, it's not like you don't have to. You know,
yeah, your mind can make the leaps in the movie. Like,
yeah,
it's
you don't
not
have
like,
to accept
wait
that
a minute.
aliens exist or something. You know, regardless of how you feel about that, like it's still just, you know, fairly reasonable. And you know, it's like the art kind of ties into Christianity, which, you know, a good portion of the planet believes, and you know, it's plausible. And as things go on, and you kind of go back through the video games that have came out over the years, they've pushed that, you know, into the wind. Like, you know, next thing you know, you're turning into an alien. And
oh yeah, there's like, so many video games, man. Yeah. There's so many video games. We'll get into that too. But all right. So reveal trailer, opening scene. We got immediately. There's the main villain. It seems like Emmerich Voss. And Indiana Jones is like buried up to his like shoulders in the ground. I don't know how that. Well, it'll be interesting to see how that happens. And it sounds like they're in the deserts of Africa. So I think that's actually when they're in Egypt, because the Egyptian pyramids is one of the locations where the game story develops, amongst a ton of other locations. And he's just buried up to his shoulders, man. It'll be interesting to see how he gets there. And then the guy's giving him like this like feel bad speech, like he's basically like, "You're an idiot.
Could have done
You're
something
dumb.
with your life.
You're an idiot. You suck." Yeah. And then Indiana Jones like, bam, headbutts him. Classic Indiana Jones move, you know.
Yeah.
And then you know, it starts to show us the story. Locations. Do you remember the locations off the top of your head?
I think they're going to be in Rome, in Egypt, the Himalayas, Maybe Thailand was in there. I think.
Yeah, Thailand's in there. Yeah, man, it's gonna be cool. I think it's really gonna be cool, like to see it, because going back to that interview, the developers were talking about how they put a lot of effort and work into creating just like cinematic environments and gameplay and cutscenes and video, and it's just, you know, combined with the orchestra and the soundtrack for the game and everything. I bet it's gonna feel, especially with a good headset, it's gonna feel like you're in one of those movie theaters. You know, remember the old movie theaters where you'd go in and there'd be it was like 3 letters. You'd go in and it'd say like THX or something. I don't remember what the 3 letters were, but you'd sit down and it'd just be like
spatial sound.
Remember it'd go. Remember that?
And sometimes you could hear it happening in the theater next door. You know, like in Rogersville, like in our old theater, like there was 2 parts to the theater or whatever, and I could hear their movie starting like it would last. Like,
I don't remember I think it was THX or VHX. I don't remember. But anyways, so it's going to be it sounds like it's going to be a very immersive game. Right off the bat, when they show the first actual gameplay scene, something very obvious is there, and it's the main thing that's caught everyone's attention, that it seems that everyone's talking about the most. You mentioned this earlier. It's a first-person perspective.
Yeah.
Initial thoughts?
You know, you don't see me. It's kind of like if combat is going to be a big deal, then, you know, like I'm going to be using a lot of guns and the whip and a lot of things. Like I would rather be in first person, like I'm playing Call of Duty. But if you're going to make me, you know, go inside a volcano and hop from rock to keep from falling in the lava, like that kind of platforming or whatever, I'd kind of rather be able to see my feet, like, you know, or whatever. But it does look like they've balanced that, like because there are times, like I noticed when there's one instance, like I think he's climbing up like a rope or something, and it does zoom back, like when you're doing that. But I think it's more just for you to see it, not to, you know, facilitate the play or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it says on online, the Great Circle is primarily played as a first-person. I'm sorry, I'm not reading accurately. I need more coffee. The Great Circle is primarily played from a first-person perspective, with third-person being employed for contextual elements such as environmental interaction. So when you watch the reveal trailer, you can kind of see how, like, you know, you're in first person and you're running across a cliffside, and then I don't know, I think there's like this one scene where there's a ladder or a pipe or something that's there on the side, and he goes to interact with it, and then it comes out into a third person perspective. Mm-hmm. And then he starts going up the ladder or pipe or whatever it was. Players control Indy. Indy, of course, is Indiana Jones. As they navigate through a mix of linear, story-sensitive areas and wider exploratory landscapes. So there's going to be some linear action where, you know, you basically just got to continue to move forward and follow the path, it sounds like. And then there's going to be some, not open world necessarily, but some larger, exploratory landscapes, not to be redundant. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. You know what I mean? When I think of, I try to think of like what an example might be. And I had a game in mind yesterday. I was like, oh, that kind of sounds like, and boom, I thought of this game. It's not coming to mind right now, but
they mention Uncharted a lot as like kind of things, games that are sort of inspired by Indiana Jones to some degree, like where you've got sort of your everyday guy that's, you know, out there, sort of in an adventure game, you know, setting.
Yeah, they also mentioned Tomb Raider a lot.
Yeah.
Look, my feeling, when I first saw that it was in first person, my initial reaction, my jerk reaction was, you know, like my face dropped. It was like, oh man, because I immediately thought about games like Uncharted, and I have Uncharted. I have all of them. Played them. They're fun. I kind of thought of also like Assassin's Creed, a little bit, which that game obviously has to be in third person. But yeah, I feel like there might be something there to having it in third person, that when you do those things like use your whip and everything, it is cool to see Indy, whip and everything. And I have played previous Indiana Jones games, and none of them were first person. I've only played a couple of them, not even a handful. And there's so many Indiana Jones games going back to I think 1982.
Yeah.
It goes back, man. Yeah. Anyways,
it does go back.
But right now, when I watched the video again, the trailer just before hitting record, there is something to it. Maybe it's because the graphics are also really good. They look in the video. They seem to look really good. When you see him using the whip and then firing the gun, and then he's on. There's one point where he's on a turret type machine gun, mounted on a vehicle. It actually it might work, man. And you know what? Machine Games is part of their reputation is just killing it at first person games. That's what they do, Mm-hmm. With Wolfenstein: The New Order from 2014 and Wolfenstein: Young Blood 2019, I looked at some footage from those games. And when I watched, after having watched the Indiana Jones trailer and watching the Wolfenstein trailers, it's yeah, man, I could see the similarities,
Mm-hmm.
and you could see the first person gameplay, and yeah, it looked like they had a solid handle on it.
Yeah.
I think with this first person thing, there's going to be gamers out there that are just adamant, no, this should be third person. And it's just period, and there's going to be people that are just no, first person is the way to go. And they shouldn't even have partial scenes, which, there's going to be people in both camps. But for me, I think it's just number one, I don't have an Xbox, so we'll see when I get to play it. But let's say I play it. I think it's just going to depend on how freaking awesome the game is and how well they create that first person experience.
I would agree. For me, the crux of this game is the whip. It is what makes this unique. There's a ton of shooter games out there. There's a ton of going and seeking out art, like Tomb Raider type situation. So I think if they get the whip right, because I remember as a child, when these movies were out, I think I mentioned to you offline, something about this. There was an amusement park over in Gatlinburg called Silver Dollar City that's now Dollywood. But at that time, you could go there to kind of Wish version of Dollywood. This other thing that was called Silver Dollar City. But they did sell whips there, full blown, bull whips, full
with
size,
nice
wooden
braid,
handle, braided freaking so. And what I wanted to do.
How much would one of those run you?
Probably $20, $10, $15.
Ooh, yeah, $19.99, something like that.
Oh yeah, not bad. And it's you're on vacation, and yeah, I come home with a whip and a wallet. I've got this leather wallet. It's got Silver Dollar City on it. So I've got my $2 that I have to my name in my pocket, in the back pocket, Silver Dollar City, and I'm down by the creek. There's a creek that's probably 3 or 4 feet wide by my house, and what I wanted to do was find that branch to throw that whip around and swing across that creek. And I think that carries over to the video game, dude. That's what I want to be able to do. I think of that famous scene in Star Wars, even when Luke Skywalker uses a grappling hook and him and Princess Leia swing across, and even going back to the Pitfall games, you're kind of swinging across over the alligator.
The Pitfall games. That I thought about those when I was looking up this information on this game. I totally thought about those Pitfall games. I remember we covered them before.
Dude, there's just something inside of us that wants to swing, and I'm going to go on record as saying
there's something inside of us that wants to swing.
Not only is it hard to find that perfect parallel to the ground branch, it also doesn't work. When you swing that whip around there, if you've swung it high enough that it's going to wrap around enough times to support your weight, it's near impossible. But I tried it like 1.2 million times and probably like fell in the creek half of those times. Got a wet foot.
Oh, man.
It wasn't a creek, like I went underwater or something. It's a small creek. So, you come home with your school shoes jacked up and your mom's all mad.
You'll never forget that, man.
Oh, I know. And I think it still goes to the game. You're exactly right. That it's like what I think of like if you said now, like, hey, here's the beta, try it, John, I would be like, I would want to swing around on that whip. I hope, everything is interactive with that whip. I love that one.
I can imagine you going like, sorry, but I can just imagine you like, I'm handing you the beta and you're just going like, putting your hand out going, wait, is there a whip?
How do I equip the whip?
Of course there's a whip. Okay.
Equip the whip. And that one scene in the trailer where he almost does like the thing from the guy on Mortal Kombat where he's like, get over here. And like,
he doesn't say that, but he should have said it, right? That would have been hilarious.
And then he just
little Easter egg.
working him. Like he pulls him over and then gives him the old 1-2 to the face about 3 times there. And like, that looks like fun to me. Like I think that's the different thing here. It's the whip. It's all in the whip. Like, like a Ferengi freaking.
Could you imagine, like, if I said, no, hold on, let me think about how to phrase this. I'm just going to keep it simple. Like, could you imagine if Indiana didn't have the whip?
Dude, there's an old
like,
video game where they gave him a cane.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Did you not just recoil? Like you were like,
like, what is this? Like candy? Is this like a Christmas version of
Indiana
like, what is it,
Jones,
Christmas edition?
Yeah, the Christmas pimp or something. Like he's out there, crip walking.
Yeah. Gold chain across
Got a
his neck.
swagger stick.
Fedora's a little tilted to the front a little bit.
Y'all better, you bitches better have my money.
it just like, it wouldn't be Indiana Jones, The whip is a huge. The whip is Indiana Jones.
Yeah. I mean, it almost ties in to just who he is. Like sort of, it's like only some smart archaeologist would know you could do all those things with a whip, like, or something like I don't know. Like, I never questioned that he had it either, but like, what other person walks around with a whip? Like,
yeah, and he's, it's part of his kit. And I don't remember what kind of revolver he carries, but let me look that up real quick.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you the other while you're looking for that. The other thing I would do is I would get crawdads out of that creek and I would catch them up on land slipping, and I would pop them suckers with that whip. And there were also water spiders that would float on top of the water. And dude, I was down there like fighting scorpions and fucking in my mind I was whipping everything. And dude, you whip them just right. You see claws like those pinchers and feet and shit just flow into a million pieces, and you're like,
okay. Hey, what kind of weapon do you think he uses? That's a hard one to nail, but it's definitely not what I thought. But it says here in Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah. There were 2 primary revolvers used in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I would say the 911 or something, isn't it? Like the.
It says he used 2 different types of pistols in Raiders of the Lost Ark. One was a Smith & Wesson 1917, which chambered for a 45 ACP round from. And then the second one was a Smith & Wesson hand ejector Model 2 from Bapty & Co. Oh, okay. So, yeah, but it looks like the Smith & Wesson was kind of like the. Yeah. Anyways,
yeah,
so
it's just your basic pistol.
Yeah, and you get to you use a pistol as well. But let me read this real quick, Chuck. I got good news for you, and all of you whippersnappers out there. Combat can either be directly engaged with or circumvented entirely through the use of stealth mechanics, and the character's signature whip can be used as both a weapon or as a means for traversing across obstacles and solving various puzzles to uncover alternate paths and obscured collectibles. So there you go. A means to traverse across obstacles.
It's definitely going to be part of it. Like what I want is in there somewhere, but I feel like it's probably sparsely in there. And the other thing they show him doing with the whip is kind of using it in a stealth mode, like where he kind of cracks the whip over here by a guy to make him look that way, and then he sneaks by, and I felt like that was a pretty big stretch for me. Like if I'm guarding something with a gun and I hear a whip crack,
Yeah, you're immediately gonna be like shouldered up and ready to go.
Whatever
right?
I'm
Like,
guarding, I'm gonna go to it right then.
whatever I'm guarding, I'm gonna guard it more.
Yeah, I'm gonna put my back to it and look in that direction. I'm not just gonna go, huh? Let me walk
Yeah, and then
outside and
go.
smoke a cigarette, and I'll go check that.
Oh,
But
that's
it
funny.
kind of made sense, I think under stealth circumstances or whatever. But yeah, there's this one scene, he kind of cracks it by the guy's ear, and the guy just kind of, goes into a different animation.
One thing I forgot to ask you about before we get too far ahead is, I mean, even in the initial scene, we hear Troy Baker perform, do his work. What do you think about the voice? A lot of people obviously were hoping to have direct participation from the great Harrison Ford.
Yeah, somewhere I picture Harrison, like someone asking Harrison Ford about this, and he's like, video game, or something. No, thanks. Like, you know who I am. Like,
No, man, I don't think so. I mean, with Star Wars and everything, Han Solo, I'm sure he's like, maybe that was his reaction, but not because of anything about video games, but just like, you know what, I'm just done with all that stuff.
he is getting
I
older.
think what
and
it probably was, man, is it like he's like, sure, I'll do that. Here's my
what it's gonna cost.
my fee. Yeah.
My
And
rider
it's just like,
is I'd like a diamond encrusted chair that I sit in while I see it. Like, he could name his own price, and
I want an actual real lightsaber.
and like the man has given us a lot, like and
dude.
and I do hear that Star Wars comparison a lot because he's a character in both ones, and I kind of like he basically carries this film. But Han Solo is just a character in the Star Wars universe. But Indiana Jones is this franchise. Like
it's just one person.
yeah,
Not
name me some more characters.
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, I could say like, oh yeah, there was that one guy, there was the kid, but like
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know their names. Like I know
Yeah, I don't
Chewbacca and Darth Vader.
There was the
and,
dude
like,
that he
Yoda.
fought with that walked into the propeller.
Yeah, but like we've got backstories and character development and just whole species development and stuff in Star Wars. It just can't compare. Like it's an unfair
No.
comparison.
I mean, even like not to jump franchises, but like even in Back to the Future, there's more than one. You've got the Doc,
Yeah,
and then you've got Marty. There's more than one like person that you can create a bond with as a viewer or as a fan.
Yeah.
But in Indiana Jones, it's Indiana Jones.
well,
Indiana
that's
Jones in this, Indiana Jones in that, Indiana Jones in this temple and that, whatever.
Yeah, no one wants like a 3.5-inch Nazi figure, to play.
3.5
for your kids
inch?
to play with. Those little.
Oh yeah, I mean, those were difficulties, and I mean, yeah, there were. That created. I actually was seeing online content about that. How when they were comparing, it was just like the Indiana Jones franchise faced challenges in those types of regards.
Yeah, the toys just couldn't like penetrate the psyche like Star Wars does, and I think it's important to point that out. Like I love both movies, but this one is on Harrison Ford's shoulders completely, and and.
But do you think, getting back to what we were touching on, Troy Baker? I'm not gonna lie. Because again, I didn't know about Troy Baker really. Like, I hadn't identified him, let alone realized how much he's contributed to the video game world. When I first opened up the reveal trailer and listened to it, I was actually like, I don't want to say fully convinced, but I was like, I knew it was a voice actor. I could kind of tell it was a voice actor, but I almost questioned it. There was a moment where I was like, that does kind of sound like Harrison, but is it? For a moment, I even thought maybe that they were using some sort of like AI or like some sort of a voice, something like that. That's because it's obviously Troy Baker trying to produce and imitate and create that Harrison Ford voice. I think he does a great job of simulating the particularities, the nuances, the little what gives that persona, you know what I mean, the character to Indiana Jones. Like he really does well of recreating that. And there are moments, man, where I swear I was like, God, that does kind of sound like Harrison Ford.
I would agree. It's that good. And to answer your question, like I think it's a great choice. And obviously he's got chops. Like he's been in a ton of games, and this is nothing new for him. And I feel like the graphics did a great job too. I think one of the things that as non-actors or people that spend a ton of time in front of a camera, like you don't realize how good looking and smooth Harrison Ford it really is. Like his smile and things, until
man.
Take a video of yourself
back in the day,
like, talking like that and see, how awkward you look compared to him. Like he's just kind of, just like I talked about him putting his hand on that dude's shoulder. You can just like in that interview on TV, like there's just something very charismatic and about him. And I felt like they captured that, like his smile, kind of makes you think of he's a handsome man.
Well, shoot, man, we're coming up on, we're getting close to that hour marker, so let's knock out some more convo here, and then we're gonna wrap it up. But Troy Baker, I think they couldn't get Harrison Ford in for whatever. There might be legalities there too, like because obviously they have the IP, so they have the rights to recreate Indiana Jones as Harrison Ford. It's obvious. It's an amazing. It looks just like him. So they did an amazing job there. So obviously they had the legal rights to allow somebody else to be the voice for this character. So there might be legalities there too that we aren't aware of or whatnot that may come out later as to why Harrison Ford didn't directly participate. But yeah, it looks like Troy Baker killed it, man. Like I'm excited to play and hear him, and play the character and see how it all ties together.
They've pulled out all the stops. I mean, you remember from that video, like some of the motion capture stuff looked pretty intense. Like,
oh yeah, man, they went full bore, dude. Yeah, they had all those little nodes on their bodies and stuff, balls. And they're just flying around the room on cables and stuff. They went the full 9 yards. They definitely pushed the envelope, it looks like. And again, when each one of those each one of those developers were expressing their thoughts and their feelings and their work about the game in those interviews on that video. I think it's an IGN video, by the way, fellow gamers, if you want to check it out. It's I think it's 14 minutes, something like that. Doesn't matter. They went the full 9 yards, man. They really used all the tech. I remember there's this one scene in that video where this guy has a 3D scanner in his hand, and he's literally scanning the actual clothes of Indiana Jones. He's going he's scanning the fedora. So the graphics are going to be insane.
Oh yeah.
And it's cool because you can tell in the game that while the graphics do look, you can tell in the reveal trailer that while the graphics do look insanely well, they still have this layer to them that give them this kind of you're in a Indiana Jones game where, you kind of pointed out, Chuck, it's all very, it's real world stuff, but it also has this element of fantasy to it that's, that's not too far fetched, and
right.
And they kind of show it in a way with the graphics, with that opening scene where they're coming down on that group of Nazis. The graphics look very realistic, but they still have this layer to them that give it kind of this. You're in a fictional story, you're in a narrative here. I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to describe.
The time period, like sort of. I understand this is set between Raiders of the Lost Ark and it's two of the movies. I can't remember if it's the first two or the second. It's set and third.
Between you got it. Raiders of the Lost Ark and The Last Crusade.
So you're looking at the 40s or late 30s or
it follows him in 1937.
Yeah.
And it's Indiana Jones as he attempts to thwart various groups who are seeking to harness a power connected to the Great Circle, which refers to mysterious sites around the world that form a perfect circle when connected together on a map. I guess we should have probably mentioned that from the top.
We did. We talked about the Great Circle, and you know, it goes back to tie into sort of a somewhat plausible supernatural kind of thing. Like we all are like familiar with the Sphinx and the pyramids, and you know these sort of wonders of the world type sites. And when I first saw that graphic that said it makes a perfect circle around the world, I thought, wouldn't any like it's a globe, like doesn't
that looks like the
anything
cover
make
to
a circle?
an 80s album.
Any line I draw around the globe makes a perfect circle. But I guess I thought about it later. It's like, yeah, you know, it would be jagged if it you know wasn't in some kind
and I think what they're kind of like leaning on, maybe perhaps, is you know how like I think there's like a set of pyramids in Mexico, and then there's like there's the pyramids in Egypt, and they're like on the same, I think they're on the same latitude line or something. There's something to that effect. I don't remember exactly the details. So maybe that's kind of like where they got a little bit of inspiration. Oh, let's create a canon story, because they are drawing this from the actual real Indiana Jones canon timeline, right? It's set between those two events. So they're intending for this to be part of the canon story, I think, is my thought. And because of the fact that they have the backing of Lucasfilm Games and everything, this is all very official, right? This isn't like a beta story or something like that. Or whatever the word is. It's canon. What was I getting at, Chuck?
just kind of how they tie the Great Circle into it.
That's right. Sorry. Yeah, I think. Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Thank you for bringing me back. I think they're like, all right, let's create a story where we can allow Indy to go to these different sites across the world, multiple, not just two, like the case of the pyramids in Mexico and the pyramids in Egypt, but like multiple sites where, you know, if they're all in the same latitude and it creates this perfect circle. It just seemed to like provide a storyline.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, it sounds like one of the first things you do is you wake up at this university and then you go to the Vatican, and like I'm assuming that's the, you know, it starts out in Italy and like you go to Rome to the Vatican, and like
he kind of like gets sufficient clues to understand that there's something larger at play here.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Like you know, you think like, where would they have some information that sort of transcends politics and you know all these things, like artifacts, like where are they stored? It's at the Vatican. Like it kind of is a unique thing. It's like as soon as I heard that, like my eyebrow kind of went up. I was like, okay, yeah, but they do have some information like that there, you know, and
it says the game picks up after Jones has left his fiancée Marion Ravenwood, and it says following the theft of an artifact from Marshall College, Jones heads to the Vatican to investigate. Jones notes that sites of spiritual significance have been built throughout history, realizing that their locations form a perfectly aligned circle around the globe. Besides Rome, other locations include Sukhothai temples in Thailand, the Egyptian pyramids, and the snowy Himalayas. During his journey, he teams up with Gina Lombardi, an investigative reporter who has an interest in the case. They go up against Emmerich Voss, who uses psychological manipulation against his enemies.
Oh, that's
and
scary.
then gets headbutted by Indy. Bah!
Psychological that.
Take your psychological manipulation in the face. Yeah. So
I
think that's it. I mean,
I want to just say in general, like the trailer, I felt like a good portion of the trailer was cutscenes, and I think that's kind of a thing with trailers to some degree. I go into them like, you know, kind of analyzing it based on the cutscene, and then when you play the actual video game, it's a little different, and that used to be really the case back in the day. But the 20-30% that was gameplay, like it is intriguing. Like it looks like to me there's some fun to be had with that whip, And I think that's one of the neat things. Like one of my favorite scenes of the Indy movies is that scene like where there's that kind of Arabian looking dude with a turban and stuff, and he's got that big old giant sword, and he does that whole kind of kata type thing, swinging it around, and then like when he's done, you're expecting Indy to fight him with his whip, and he just pulls out his gun and shoots him
and then turns around and holsters it and then moves on.
Yeah, there's something about how an indie game isn't just designed for you to come shoot your way through like kind of guerrilla style. Like you got to kind of think a little bit but
there's going to be a lot of puzzle solving, man. And it looked good. Like it looked good in the game.
Well, and also too, like it was sort of geared at more like a PG-13 audience. I felt like when the movies came out, so you don't want to see a ton of blood and guts and just egregious like loss of life.
Well, they do show you lots of skulls and burial type stuff and just really creepy environments. I mentioned the scene earlier. I don't remember which one it was in, but there's this scene in one of the original 3 movies where they're on like an airstrip and there's all these like planes and jets around. And I don't remember if it's a Russian dude or a big German dude.
I forgot that.
Yeah, remember? And they just start. And this again, I don't remember if he's Russian or German, but this dude is big, and he's jacked, and he's juiced, and I don't know, Indiana Jones is trying to get somewhere, but it's just him and this other dude, and they just start throwing blows, man. And Indy's like, he's putting in the works, but the guy's gonna just eventually gas tank him and just ground and pound Indy. He's gonna get worked, and they weren't using any jujitsu. I'll tell you what. So Indy is like, all right, I'm gonna lose this fight. And long story short, he just kind of like using his wits, like backs this guy up into a propeller of a plane that's like on. The plane is like engines on, and the propellers are just full. And this guy just like he's like duking up. He's like squaring off again, and Indiana Jones is kind of like moving him forward, and he's backing up and just walks right into the propeller, and you just see a full spray, just that's one of the gnarliest scenes though, and they don't show the guy like getting just completely mutilated, but they do show a good solid spray if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, but like that was
I'll
before
never
CGI.
forget that scene, dude.
That was before CGI. Some dude had to chuck a watermelon into a real helicopter or some shit.
All right, hold. Cut. Perfect. No need to run it back. We got it.
Keeper.
We got it. Thank you, Harrison.
It's a wrap. Yeah, that's so true.
Thank you, Airfield bad guy number 2.
Well, yeah. One thing I definitely want to mention before we're done is there's a famous sort of take that came from the show, that TV show, The Big Bang Theory, and I think it's Sheldon, the character off of there, that says it, that basically Indiana Jones is insignificant in all of these movies. Like when you think of the Ark, like the Germans still get the Ark, like no matter like they capture him and the Ark, and they would have still died from opening the Ark, and like so he basically just is there, doesn't affect the plot.
did all this shit for no reason.
Yeah.
Spent all this.
But other people point out that like he did find the Ark. Like I kind of remember it. Like if he hadn't have been there, the Germans wouldn't have found the Ark, and probably it would have been okay. Like it'd been better for it to stay buried. But a lot of people point out that they would have found it eventually, and like he was there once. He was the smart guy that knew to keep your eyes closed once it got opened, and was there to make sure it got properly handled once it was over. And we see that scene where it gets kind of put in that warehouse, and a bunch of other artifacts. Dude. So
those movies were just so they're just iconic movies, man.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. That scene when they open the Ark, I
rewatched it, and it re-freaked me out.
Dude, I de-watched it. Whenever it started as a kid, I shut my eyes like you're supposed to when the Ark is open. And
all these people that are all fucked up, it's because they didn't close their eyes when they watched Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Well, and something else that gets pointed out is like even after Indy witnesses God like fry about 50 Nazis. Like he's still like is womanizing and like, breaking some of the 10 commandments. Most people are like, if I witnessed that, I would become a monk like the next day.
Yeah. And he just goes on doing his thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's like, do you need any more proof? Like,
it's like, I'm a believer.
I'm a believer.
I'm jumping over pews and shit.
Just like get home, throw all the porn mags out, get rid of the booze, dump the booze.
Please forgive me.
Start planting a garden,
Quit
picking the kids
swearing.
up from school, throwing the baseball.
Yeah.
All right.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go straight edge.
It would definitely
Yeah, that's
strange
funny.
you. I mean, it change you, but yeah, I'm excited for this, man. I think it'll be fun. I guess
I got a question because there is
sucks
something about you that
Xbox
is
only.
you'll just click the mouse and hit the button. So I gotta ask, are you gonna go out and buy a Xbox just to be able to play this game? No, I'm joking,
looking at
man.
an
Don't do
Xbox
it.
right over there. I'll
Oh,
be
you already
honest.
have one?
Yeah, I mean, an old one. I forget which. It's the Xbox One, I think, or something.
Oh, damn.
but,
Yeah, that's. You might want to.
not like the first Xbox, but at one point they had. I would say 2015 or
Oh,
something.
I remember. Yeah, I know. What
You
you're
had one called the Xbox One or whatever, but
I'm just playing, man.
nah, I doubt it. I came to PlayStation for you guys, man, for you and Pepe Tortilla. I was an Xbox dude before then. Like, yeah, so and I can't help but wonder if like old Bill Gates is a fellow Gen Xer. Like he might be the one that's like, wanting this to happen on the Microsoft world.
Perhaps. But
I doubt it though. I'm not gonna buy it. I'm not gonna buy an Xbox just for it. But
no.
yeah.
Well, one last little quick tidbit before we wrap it up, because I did say I'd mention this, and I'm sure we're missing something, but I went online, there's multiple pages that have different info, but I went onto the indianajones.fandom.com. It's like a wiki, so I guess this is pretty legit. And I counted 28 games.
It's
From the Atari 2600 back in the day, the Atari System 1, the ZX Spectrum, the Amstrad CPC, NES, PC, Macintosh, Game Boy, Sega Genesis, Sega Game Gear, Master System, SNES, the ZX. I already mentioned that. All the Ataris, Game Boy Colors, even there's mobile, Nintendo DS, PSP, PlayStation, Xbox, Wii, they're all on here. There's even a Facebook game, man. I mean, 28 games, man. Even Lego games and stuff. Like, I think the Lego one did really well. It had like 3 million copies sold. It was like,
they've been pretty liberal with this franchise for sure. And like, I watched a good bit. There's a video you shared with me about the history of those games.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a long video. I couldn't watch it all, to be honest.
I couldn't help but think about like the first ones they showed, like the Commodore 64. There were even some text-based games, kind of like those Zort games that we talked about at one point.
Yep.
And one of the things that came up in there is what's your IJQ?
Oh, that's right. I'm so glad you remembered to bring that up. Yeah, it's like your IQ, but your IJQ.
Well, and in those old video games, man, they would it was almost like you had to read the developer's mind. Like there were no clues, context clues whatsoever.
Just little sound cues, I think, in some cases.
Just random, you might play that game 100 freaking years and not notice. Like there's this one, like you've got to get a bottle and you've got to fill it up with water from this fountain. And like, it's like you walk by this couple that are sitting at a table and they say like, even the game says better leave them alone. And like you've got to go like steal their wine bottle and ask them for it and some stuff. And like, it just like incredibly complicated. And I guess that IJQ was basically just like,
it's the Indiana Jones quotient.
yeah, like are you thinking like Indy? Basically, like kind of a problem solver.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. Yeah, that's kind of like some fandom created, like,
Yeah,
you know,
it's right up there with the whip. Like we want to see puzzles in these games, and you know, kind of have to find that balance between it being just a completely obscure, like we're walking around like the ET game looking for crap that we can't find or whatever, and you know, just completely spoon feeding it to us, like, you know, hey, this flashing door, like, you know,
yeah. Well, we didn't really get into this, but gosh, yeah, and we're running out of time. But like, you know, what are the actual weapons and devices and throwables and stuff that you're gonna have? You know, just from getting a peek at the video, you're definitely gonna have the trailer. You're gonna have your gun. You're gonna have a gun. You're gonna have a whip. It looks like there's a scene there where there's a lighter, kind of like a Zippo that he might have as part of his kit, and it looks like you can whip lots of the like the stuff you can find around the map and like whip it at people, throw it at people. You can pick up stuff around the map. I noticed there's a part where he picks up a hammer and throws it at one of the Nazi guards. So, you know, and there's a ton of puzzle solving. You can see it in the trailer. So I think what they're trying to do is create that balance, you know, where we're at the end of the, you know, through every mission or whatever, the quests or stories or the development of the storyline, where we're getting a good balance of stealth, of puzzle solving, finding different routes, because it sounds like there's going to be multiple routes to objectives. Melee combat, you know, like close up and personal. We saw fist fights, you know, that's a whole, we didn't even get into that. Like, it's not hard to create realistic feeling brawls, you know, like that's one of the reasons of Red Dead Redemption 2 was really successful at creating authentic feeling fist fights, you know, so we'll see how they do that in first person, you know, it's going to be interesting. So yeah, you're right. 100% right. The whip, huge, fundamental. That's going to be good. Whip mechanics is going to be so important for this game to be successful. Really fun, challenging, but solvable puzzles is going to be really great and fun. And then when facing enemy combatants or enemy NPCs in the game, having diversity, and can I be stealth? Do I need to go aggro on these dudes? Do I need to distract them? Do I need to manipulate them? Or, you know, like all that stuff. It's gonna be all fundamental in making a great indie game.
Yeah,
you know? There hasn't been an Indiana game for a very long time.
Over a decade, I think.
Over a decade. Yep.
Yeah. No, they've done a good job, I think, of getting the feel down. One of the things I heard mentioned is they use something called the Wilhelm scream. It's kind of like this, "Ah!" like we've heard in movies for like since 1951, I think.
Oh, yeah. They're going to use that?
It's even in the trailer. It's in the trailer.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, I'll watch it again and look out for that, or hear out for that.
Yeah, it's from a movie from 1951, but it's been in like tons of movies since then, so you'll recognize it.
Absolutely, yeah. There are certain sound effects that are so
just universal.
You know, there's one that comes to mind is that there's like a police radio, like when you see a movie with a scene beginning and the scene opens and there's like police cars and they're like cops walking around. You'll always hear like the police radio from a vehicle make this same. It's like a dispatcher coming through the radio. It goes like
breaking squelch. Yep.
It's the same one, dude, in so many different movies. I've heard it so many times.
Yeah.
But
this is like from if someone gets shot from a high and they're up on something high and they fall, they always make this sound. You'll recognize it when you hear it.
Something like that. Yeah. That was good, Chuck. That's good. Oh, just to wrap it up, and, you know, unless you have any final comments, Chuck, my final comment is at the end of the video, they really do some fan service, like when that one guy's walking around with a huge vase or vase, and he drops it and it just shatters into a bunch of pieces. And Indiana Jones is like, "Do you have any idea how old that was?" That's exactly something he would say, or you know,
absolutely.
Like, he just and Troy did a great job of voice acting that too. Like oh man. Anyways, very excited for you, Windows, PC, Xbox gamers out there. We hope this one we hope it's just super successful, and you hope you enjoy the shit out of it. And I'm gonna play it too as soon as opportunity I get. Yeah. Anything else, Chuck?
No, I think that covers it, man. Good luck to him.
Hell
and
yeah.
I guess just we did mention it earlier, but it's coming out in 2024. So
Yeah, it should be out this year. Sooner the better. Obviously, we probably missed a couple of things. If there's anything that we missed that you want to reach out to us and discuss that we could maybe bring up to recap in the next episode or something like that, anything that you noticed from the reveal trailer and the information out there that you find interesting, let us know. Shoot us an email. Hit us up on Facebook. Our email is ovoxandchuk@gmail.com. That's ovoxandchuk@gmail.com. Yeah, let us know what you think about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. We'll shout you out on the pod. And whatever you happen to be listening on, if you enjoy the podcast, enjoy the episode, enjoy the laughs, leave us a rating and review. That would be super, super helpful for us as an independent podcast. It gets us out there to more ears. And our handle online, basically for everything, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube, our handle is @NWG Podcast. @NWG Podcast. And that's it. That's the whole burrito.
Yeah.
Episode 41. Is it 41?
It is.
Yeah, it's 41. Okay. All right, dude. Thanks, ChukTomahawk.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Ovox.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, y'all have a good day.